In this video, I will share my best tips on macro photography so you can become a better macro photographer. My name is Peter Bordeldam and I'm a nature photographer. Macro photography is one of my favorite genres because it allows me to enter the world of tiny subjects and watch and observe how complex nature really is, and discover that there's so much more to every small subject you photograph than initially meets the eye. By the way, before we get into the tips, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell. I really appreciate each and every one of you for helping me building this channel. So do subscribe so you don't miss out on the other videos I'm releasing soon. Now let's move on to my best tips for macro photography. So the first tips I'm going to share with you is that you need to be aware of the background. This is extremely important as everything in macro photography is magnified. Now, backgrounds can be very pleasing and enhance the composition. And in macro photography, you will often find that you are in control of the background by simply changing the position of the camera and shooting the subject from another side. You change the background completely. Colorful backgrounds can be distracting, but they can also just be the thing to make your image special. Don't focus all your attention on the subject, keep an eye out on the background too. So make sure that you remove any objects from the frame that don't belong there or stand out and steal the attention from your subject. This could be like a piece of grass or reflective surface that don't add value to your composition. Each element in the frame should be there because you want it to be there. However, don't disturb the natural environment of your subject just because you want a better picture. Instead, try to change the position and the angle of the camera, try different camera settings or find another subject. So the next tip I want to share with you is that you should have your camera parallel with your subject. Now, sometimes taking a good photo depends on how far you're willing to go for it. I see many photographers starting out in macro photography taking photos of an insect or flower right from where they are or just leaning a bit forward. I highly recommend that you take your time and think about what you want to be in focus and then position yourself in a way so that your camera sensor is completely parallel to that part of your image that you want to be in focus. In this way, you make the best use of the depth of field available at the settings you're using, and this will ensure that you have the maturity of your subject in focus. Yes, this sometimes means that you have to lie down on the ground or lean in or move a bit into a bush or a branch or something like that. But being willing to take that extra step to get the right plane of focus and to get another angle is what makes your images stand out. Let's move on to the next tip, and this is controlling the depth of field. Depth of field dictates how much of the frame is in focus, meaning how much is sharp and how much is blurred. For example, in landscape photography, you can often get the entire scene in the frame sharp and clear from front to the back. You have a deep depth of field. However, in macro photography, you often have a shallow depth of field, meaning that your subject will be in focus and the background will be blurred, or only part of your subject will be in focus and the rest will be blurred. The shallow depth of field in macro photography helps you to separate the subject from the background. But how do you achieve it? According to theory, you just have to shoot at a wide aperture such as f2.8. While this could be a good starting point, you'll often find that the depth of field is too shallow. And the closer you get to a subject, the shallower the depth of field will be, even without altering the aperture. If you want more of your subject in focus, all you have to do is to decrease the aperture to f8 or f11 or f13. But don't forget to make sure that you have sufficient light for these f-stops. So let's move on to the next tip, which is using the right focus method. For macro photography, you often want to use a single focus point, whether you're using autofocus or manual focus. You'll find that switching to manual focus and shifting your upper body back and forth until the subject is in sharp focus is often the way to proceed with very small subjects. Autofocus may be great for larger subjects or non-moving subjects. It's fast and it doesn't give you anything to do. So why shouldn't you use it for smaller subjects? Well, at a high magnification level such as macro photography, the autofocus can't focus precisely enough on a subject that's so tiny and maybe even moving a bit. So instead you'll experience that your lens starts hunting for acquiring the right focus, and then you'll miss the shot. Instead, try out manual focus and set your lens to its minimum focus distance, and then move in and rock a bit back and forth until you find that the subject is in focus. And this is how to proceed with very small subjects. It's great to know when to use an external flash. One of the keys to great macro photography is excellent lighting. A dedicated macro flash system with diffusers can really help you level up your macro photography. And you can even use these in sunlight as long as the sunlight in the scene doesn't overpower the flash. Now, a typical lighting setup for macro photography could be a twin light flash unit that attaches directly to the front of your lens. This will give you great front lighting, and you can even switch one of them on and off, so you get sort of a side lighting effect. If you want to have even more control, then you can opt for a twin flash with flexible arms that is mounted into the hot shoe, and then you can adjust each arm separately, and you can get more onto the side or above your subject than with the front mounted solutions. Now, don't worry, you don't have to use flash all the time, only when there's not enough available light. For example, when shooting indoors, or early mornings, late in the evenings, or when it's a little bit too overcast, or if you need to capture something that is fast moving like bee or a butterfly, and you can't get a high enough shutter speed. Learning when and how to use a flash one of the macro photography skills that can take your shots from good to great. The last tip in this video that I want to suggest is that you try out focus stacking. As a macro photographer, you'll struggle with focus. It's very easy to lose focus when you're very close to a subject or use a low f-stop number. Remember, even at f8 or f11, you may not be able to have the entire subject in focus. Therefore, many professional macro photographers use focus stacking. Again, one of the best ways to do this handheld is to rock your body a bit back and forth while shooting a burst of shots. If you're using a tripod, then you can slightly rotate the focus ring while taking a burst of shots. I'll make another video covering this in depth later on. Anyway, you'll end up with a series of similar photos where the only thing that's different is which part of the subject is in focus. It's taken from the exact same angle, the same settings, the same light. The only thing that's different is where the plane of focus is on the image. Then, with the help of a photo editor, you combine all these images into a single image that accumulates the areas in focus, and thereby you get a deeper depth of field. If you haven't done focus stacks before, I suggest that you start out by using a tripod, so you're sure that you preserve the position and the angle of the camera throughout the process. It's much easier to get a successful focus stack when you use a tripod the first couple of times. Anyway, that's all for now. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you found it useful. If not, feel free to drop me a comment below so I can try to improve upcoming videos. And if you have any questions to ask me, also feel free to drop me a comment. If you haven't checked my other video on 5 mistakes to avoid in macro photography, I suggest that you take a look at this. See you in the next video.